Mark Taylor-Canfield from Seattle. Mark, blogging about and writing about and reporting on the Occupy movement. A judge has released activists from solitary confinement in Seattle, Mark?
Yes, Tom. And by the way, I've been reporting about this for Free Speech Radio News on the Pacifica Network. So
great.
Shout out. Please support Free Speech Radio News. They really need support right now.
Yeah, and the Pacifica Radio Network that carries this program on many, many stations around the country and around the world.
Yes. Yes, and this is one of those stories that they've allowed me to do coverage of, which really isn't getting coverage, but Federal District Court Judge Richard Jones has released 3 activists from solitary confinement, and that has to do with the Seattle Federal Grand Jury that's been convening since August, actually, and that apparently, although all of the warrants and subpoenas have been sealed because it's a secret grand jury, but apparently it's relating to property damage at a federal appeals court on May Day last year when a small group of people broke off from the main demonstration. And so what Judge Jones said was that solitary confinement is detrimental to people's physical and mental welfare. They had 3 activists who had refused to testify because they said that this was a political witch hunt. And Al Jazeera actually referred to them as America's Pussy Riot, referring to the rock band in Moscow that got jailed after a protest. And the National Lawyers Guild agreed with them. Well, they were, several of them, Matthew Pfeiffer, Matthew Duran, and Catherine Oljanik, have been placed in solitary confinement since, at least Matt was in there, I think, since August, which meant one 15-minute phone call a month and 23 hours of lockdown a day. Well, the judge said that's ridiculous. He basically
That's not just ridiculous, that's punitive.
Yes.
I mean, it's one thing to incarcerate somebody, it's another thing to punish them when they have not been convicted of a crime.
Yeah, it is important to point out that these activists are not the target of a criminal investigation. They were brought before the grand jury hoping to get some kind of leads to the people that were involved in that. They actually were not in Seattle on May Day, so it's one of those things where they're trying to sweat people out to rat on other people. Well, according to the activists, their testimony is tangential to the investigation. It wouldn't have helped anyway. And the judge ruled that basically, although the grand jury could question their unwillingness to testify, you cannot question their commitment to their own principles. And so he said, let's get them out of jail. So Catherine Oljanik and Matthew Duran are actually released from jail. There's still one person, Matty Pfeiffer, who's still in jail, but he has been released from solitary confinement.
So he's in with the general population now?
Yes.
Yeah, which you could argue is pretty nasty stuff too, but still, solitary confinement is, it makes people crazy. I mean, literally, it causes post-traumatic stress disorder, it causes mental illness. It is, humans are not designed to be put in cages.
Yes, and there were some conservatives, including a former presidential candidate, who would agree with you on that. But I wanted to point out also that this is an ongoing thing. There were very violent raids by the FBI and Seattle SWAT teams on the homes of 2 activists back in July of 2012, one in Portland and one in Seattle. And laptops, political material, all sorts of things were confiscated. But the bottom line here, Tom, is that so far no one has been charged with any criminal activity.
Yeah.
So what we have is a federal grand jury that's been going on since August, and at this point, not only are there no charges, but the people that were originally jailed for contempt of court for refusing to testify have now been released. So
it's a good step. It's a good step. Mark Taylor-Canfield, thank you for sharing that. And I just, for the record, pardon me, excuse me, I'm of the opinion that this whole grand jury power that has been taken in the United States in the last, largely the last 4 or 5 decades, exceeds the constitutional authority of grand juries, and therefore I think it's wrong.